Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to the show. This is the 404 Show. It's a podcast.
Is it?
It's a podcast. Much ado about nothing. Joining us today on the program, Mr. Scott Stein.
Hey,
thanks. I like being existential.
Scott Stein, you haven't been on the show in a while.
I know.
Because you told me candidly that you despise us.
I knew
you
it.
said Russ. You said Russ is like, you can't
None
look at
of
him
this
because he's
is
so
true.
ugly. Why'd you say that?
I've wanted to, for years, I've dreamed of being on this show again.
How screwed up is that?
I've wanted to do this. I've sat just a tenth of a mile down the hallway.
Yeah. Well,
And I've wanted-
look, you have excuses.
I'm excited to be. I've had parenthood, home stuff.
Well, like
older
VR is
people
really...
getting, and virtual reality.
you were on the show, I feel like it was 3 months ago, no? Am I making that up?
I think you're making that up. I
I don't think I was. I think it was a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Time moves faster for me now anyhow, so I feel like 3 months would actually be 2 years.
I read something... Oh, by the way, Scott Stein's here. I read something that...
You were about to do something mean. I can tell from the look
No,
in
I
your
wasn't.
eye.
I was... Because usually we introduce the show or like with the date, but whatever. We just went...
I saw the smirk.
Just went to start to roll here. No, I read something that said like... as you age, you start to perceive time as way faster.
Yes.
That makes sense.
I've been obsessed with this.
So what's going on? You sound like you're going through some sort of like existential crisis.
It's like the end of Interstellar.
I didn't
Or it's the
see
middle
that.
of Interstellar.
It's lost on me. I didn't see that.
Oh.
It's just a part where he's
yeah.
like catching up and he realizes that like his kids have all grown up and he's like on this metal ship crying.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
I
it's
am
a
the
little
metal
grim.
ship.
So,
Wait,
wait,
you're
are
the
you the
ship? You're not the crying guy?
Yeah, I don't get that.
and inside me is the
Okay.
crying guy.
Wait,
Understood.
so
It's a strange metaphor.
so
It's
what
not-
happened? What, like, you're not an old guy. What happened?
No.
So why
Well,
are you
it's
having
happened
this?
over time? Over time, I feel like it happens more and more. I've been obsessed with that. I think that I just noticed that all of a sudden I will talk to friends and say, "Yeah, we just saw each other," and they're like, "Yeah, it was 6 months ago." I'm like,
Wow.
No. But I think that's also that when there are books written about this. Actually, a book about time and memory that I want to read. I'll have to pull up the name of it. But I believe that your brain locks in all of its neural patterns. And when you start locking in everything and your brain's kind of all full of it, and you do that same trip back and forth,
Yeah.
your brain kind of goes into autopilot and just goes, nothing new is being written.
Yeah.
I'm just
Well,
kind of
that's a truth.
Yeah,
that's
it is a truth.
scientific truth. Like
that's been written about as well. So that's part of the aging process. That's part of the idea of like learning versus wisdom. And so when you start writing those neural channels over and over again, you lose track of time because it's not being written in the same way.
because you're just not making many new significant
Sure.
memories.
Your
that
brain goes to
like-
sleep and says,
Yeah, your
"I'm
brain's
not
like-
interested in this."
Yeah.
Well, but
part
don't you
anymore."
think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like a kid's schedule is like or kids' schedules in general are very like set, and so if you're taking care of kids, you're basically following a very set pattern, with the school year and the summer and et cetera, where there's not a lot of variance to it. So it is in the same way that like if I woke up and like had to drive to work or like coming in on the subway this morning, I don't really remember anything that happened on the subway because nothing notable happened on the subway.
You just enter these like phases of autopilot.
Yeah.
Where your brain, like, it happens sometimes when I'm driving. Like, if I'm driving like 150 miles, sometimes like 70 of those miles will just like
A haze.
blur into nothing.
Oh,
It's like-
easily.
so-
and
and
it used to be so hard as a kid
Yeah.
to spend. I look at my kids in the back seat where they're 10 minutes drives them crazy.
Yeah. Well, because like they need constant stimuli.
Yeah.
And
It's so much more of their life as
Yeah.
well, percentage wise.
for sure,
Whereas
it's weird.
for me,
So what? Like
you
what?
apparently can slow time down though.
What okay. What
Now
do
I
you-
sound like I've lost my mind.
What do you mean, Mr. Hawking?
No, just that some people have theories that the more things you do in a day, the way to break things up.
You can slow down your perception.
You can
of time.
slow down the perception of
Sure,
time.
of course you can.
Which of course other
If
people.
you stare at a clock all day, it'll feel like it's taking forever.
That's why people travel. Traveling and tourism is about slowing down time.
And
Well,
having new
No, I don't
experiences.
know.
I mean, it's about having
And new
like
things.
a vastly different experience from your day-to-day life.
So I can sympathize a little bit with that, where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe a year went by. My kid's one already. That totally threw me for a loop.
Or 7.
Right, definitely. I mean, I'm sure that just compounds and gets crazier and crazier as the years go on. But like, I now will think of things where like, do I want to go do that today? Because if I go do that, the day will go by so quick. Like, it'll be slower if I just stay home and do nothing than go to that party where 7 hours will fly by.
Yeah.
So you choose to slow down time and make life boring.
Isn't that
But that's
messed
also
up?
funny because, like, I think if you went to that party, the day would feel longer because you're doing something different.
Yeah, I think that's I agree.
Maybe. I think that's just like a different way to think about it. I don't know.
Technically, staying at home, not technically, just according to my theory.
Technically, seconds go slower.
Actually,
Yeah.
and if you, I feel like you stay at home, time would go by quicker.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Or you'd remember it as time going by quicker.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true about the driving thing. I'll just be like, oh my god, wait, have I been going through every red light?
Right. No idea.
What have I been doing?
No clue.
Yeah, I was driving home at night with the kids, and I just go, I hope everything was safe.
Yeah.
Because 3 hours just went by, and I don't know where I was.
And you like you park the car and you like get out.
And I'm like in bed. The
Yeah.
next thing I remember is being in bed.
That's weird.
There's like a hand hanging off your car.
Yeah, or just a bunch of like deer fur. And you're like, oh shit, when did that happen? All right, we're not going to stay in that realm. Is there
No.
anything else you want to cover in that?
Can I tell you the weird Warren Ellis tweet that I saw this morning?
Yeah,
about,
so
about
explain who
aging,
Warren Ellis
which,
is. He's an author, right?
Yeah, he's an author, fantastic author, graphic novels and novels, and he tweeted this article on Ribbon Farm. I don't want to lose the spot I'm on, so I'll pull up the name of it. Immortality Begins at 40 by
Okay.
Venkatesh Rao.
So how do you interpret that? Because it's a very literal statement. But
It is full of equations and strange poetry, and it's also so depressing and wonderful. I just like this sentence or this paragraph. 40 is also the age at which point it stops being worth anyone's while to manufacture and invest meaning in you.
right, because
It is this drying up of supply.
Well, you're
Because
supposed to invest meaning in yourself and like your whatever kids or something like that, and they've got the same problems. Like
That's what it is. It's saying that at that point you're supposed to move into different roles.
right.
Give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Stock a lake with fish and he'll fish till he's 40, at which point it's generally not critical to anyone else that he continue to eat.
right, because I mean it's a tragic
great.
tragic sentence.
Yeah.
But
But that's
I
like, it's up to you after that.
Right.
I understand where that's coming from, and I hate to put this like number on a yearly number.
Yeah.
That you should sort of like say to yourself, well, I'm definitely over the apex, right?
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing.
Well,
to
it just
think
becomes. I mean, at that point, it just becomes like, again, you're taking care of kids, fine, or your actions are generally done to benefit yourself in the sense of like, I want to do this creatively because it'll make me feel more into what I'm doing. It's not. Yeah, it feels like more like the decisions you're making are strictly for your own personal or your family's own personal benefit.
And I also interpret that to mean like you have nothing cool left to give society. Like that's what to me is saying.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe it.
But I think it's also discussing. It's meant to be a positive piece, despite sounding depressing.
Because it
To
starts
say
off
that
depressing.
it's up to you, because that's the immortality part. That it's up to you to turn into a different role, to give back, to be a leader, to do that, because you know what, the game and the fun stuff that society was making for you is not for you
Right,
anymore.
it's not rigged for over 40.
Yeah, so it's like leave the theme park. Now you got to build the theme park.
Right.
Or
Make
something
your own
like that.
fun.
Yeah.
You got to carve out your own sort of slot there.
I think so. Yeah, which is why me being sad at a theme park makes sense, because I should, I got to start making one.
You just got back from a theme park, so you're someone who's over 40, and you just got back from a theme park. So how do you interpret that thing?
Well, I spent most of the time taking my kids around to things, so I learned to give up all the rides I wanted to go on. Didn't go on Hyperspace Mountain at Disneyland.
Whoa. They're calling Space Mountain Hyper?
Is it a
Oh,
new
did you
ride?
notice? Yeah, they redesigned
What?
it in the fall.
What?
Well, it's part of their hold the fort till that 14-acre
Star
Wars
Star
thing
Wars
gets
thing,
built.
yeah.
They have this. I didn't realize how much they had changed it, but apparently now there's Star Wars music. There are ships, little battles, and
Is there like Marvel shit there too?
there is a like meet the Marvel characters zone that's sort of far off in Tomorrowland. Like it's like in the corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the rest of it is all Star Wars. And you jump to Lightspeed with the Star Wars music. Somebody had shot a GoPro video with them in it going through the ride, and it was pretty cool.
That is cool.
I wish I had done it, but most of the time I was going through waiting on lines at Fantasyland, Storybook Canal Ride,
Ugh.
Star Tours a few times.
Russ, you don't want to do that?
It's hot, a lot of zombies.
I feel like I was taking on a lot of rides that were inappropriate for my age, and I just sort of made the best of it.
All I know is
You just went?
Yeah.
With Yeah.
I mean, I cried my eyes out, but I went.
I remember going when I was 3, and my parents took me on Space Mountain.
Yeah.
And I cried.
Yeah.
Because it was like
Scary.
this awful
Terrifying.
airplane crash simulator
Yeah.
to me. And I'm just like...
I couldn't even see anything that was going on. It was just dark,
it's
and
just
I was like being
being
shaken.
jerked. Yeah. But then when I went back when I was 8, apparently I loved the damn thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son Alex went on a roller coaster for the first time. He thought it was scary, but
Yeah.
then at the end he said it was great. So I saw that whole process in his head.
Yeah.
The other
It's
one,
good that it happened all at once in like
Yeah.
one contained
It was- thank God.
sequence. Yeah.
and the other one went on a Finding Nemo submarine ride and was bawling and screaming
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole time,
yeah.
and did
Yeah.
not find joy.
When
But maybe
you're-
he will,
It
maybe.
takes a certain age for you to just realize like this isn't torture. This is fun.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like everyone has their moment.
Right on the borderline
Yeah.
between both.
All right. Well, look, I respect the fact that you're going through. It's not a crisis. It's not anything like that. You're
Is this
just
the episode where Scott, in which
Loses
Scott
it?
goes through the midlife crisis?
no, not at all. I think this is just a healthy audit.
Yes.
Yeah,
is
I go
what
through
it
it all
is.
the time. Well, I'm reading a lot of deeper
Yeah, you are.
philosophy books lately that are making me get all
Yeah,
tongue-tied.
Yeah.
it's making you like do drugs and whatnot, right?
It's good. I was reading too much dystopian sci-fi, so now I'm switching it up and reading.
Well, speaking of dystopian sci-fi, we had a pretty long conversation about VR last week with Justin Yu. Justin Yu only sees the darkest corners of VR.
Yeah.
Right? He only sees like, no. This is how we're going to torture people in the future.
Oh yeah,
And I'm just like, okay, that's one way to think about it, and fulfill like all these deviant acts that you could never do, and that's fine.
sure.
My question to you, Scott, as the person who has been reviewing all this stuff for CNET.com, I need you to tell me like, we're in a weird spot right now because the honeymoon is kind of over.
Yeah.
There seems to be a general lack of interest on the internet about VR.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see this? Like, how do you feel about virtual reality on April 29th, 2016?
I think some of the bloom of the, oh wow, this is what VR is fading. So I get, after so many times using it in so many different ways, there was a time where just realizing that VR does what it does was cool.
Yeah.
Now I'm pretty used to that, and then it's got to be well, what else are you doing with it?
Right.
And that's going to be a hard transition, I think, because a lot of the apps and movies and games really ride right now on the can you believe
Yeah.
that this is all around you right now? And video is inevitably, like, I'm just more and more aware that a lot of 360 video is really grainy compared to the video I'd watch on TV.
Doesn't always look great.
Right,
Yeah.
or on my iPad even. So I'm really excited about new ideas. I think they're coming all over the place. There's a ton of stuff, but also it just becomes more painfully aware how few people have tried this or
Right.
are aware of the
Yeah.
landscape. And now with sales,
Well, people
But-
can't buy them.
they can't buy them literally, and other people are just not adopting that much. And New York Times, the stories about them reissuing cardboard, I think as another initiative. But also, I remember my mom had it sitting on her counter
Yeah.
for months and didn't even know what it was. I said, "Do you know?" After showing her VR, you have this right here, and she's like, "Oh, I just thought that was like I think she thought it was just some sort of a business. I don't know what she business card holder. What did she think? Yeah,
It's a fancy bike helmet.
It's a coaster set. It's a rectangular coaster set.
So that's
it's a
cool.
memento.
Tell me about the first time your mother experienced VR.
I think.
Wait. She experienced which VR?
I don't even remember. Well, it was Samsung Gear VR.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
so you haven't hooked her into Vive.
I showed her
or anything.
Cirque du Soleil. No, I didn't hook
You're
her
like,
up.
no, I don't want her to lose
Well,
it.
the problem is then I have to have her come over to
Yeah,
my
it's a
house
pain in
and
the
go
butt.
upstairs
Yeah.
to the
The VR
room.
cave.
Yeah. So I was burping just then.
That's okay.
Unless you
You're-
want a little burp on the air.
You're human.
I think I tended to show people the virtual cinema,
Yeah.
which was the
Yeah.
demo. You're looking at a movie on a screen. Showed some of the political films, like the Bill Clinton documentary. So, and she looked around and said, "Oh, there are a lot of nice things in his office. Oh, look at that! What is that? Look at that stuff on his shelf. It's interesting. Is that
Yeah.
what type of antique is that? You know? Oh, he looks very thin now. He looks
Yeah.
very old. So you get, and that's I find that too. Watching like boxing or the debates, you start getting interested in like who's that guy running across the stage
Yeah.
or what's that? It's like you're hyper attentive to small details and you're not paying attention. But she thought it was really amazing. My brother-in-law's mother, whatever that is to me.
Yeah, what is that?
My mother-in-law.
I don't think it's anything.
It's not. It's just that
My
woman. Is that woman
brother-in-law's
over
mother
there?
I thought she was never into tech. I showed her Netflix, and she was watching something going, oh, it's interesting. I said, now look, and then she finally realized she could look around her.
Yeah.
She said, oh, and she giggled.
It blew her away.
And saw the remote on the sofa.
That's cool.
and Cirque du Soleil she thought was amazing. My actual mother-in-law and father-in-law, I'm focusing on older because I feel like, and not to be stereotypical, those might be people that you'd say, oh, they aren't going to care about this.
No, yeah, but
I think they're
tried
more
it out,
amazed.
but
and
their
thought,
reactions
this is
are
great.
more-
I want to get one.
right,
Yeah.
and their reactions are more entertaining. I mean, you can't. That's without a
they're
doubt.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Totally unaware, and little kids too. Like
Yeah.
trying it on my son, who thought it was like some sort of amazing magic goggle trip, which it is. My wife still doesn't want to use it.
She hasn't tried it on.
No,
Wow.
She's scared.
she's really not into this type of tech. She tried a little bit, said it made her dizzy. I think she's hyper aware of the prosthetics of technology,
Yeah.
and so she just finds that if it's not comfortable, that forget it. But friends who try it, every time I think I downplay it actually, and then they try a Vive or other things, and every single person just says like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
How incredible. One curmudgeon in 100.
Huh.
So that's still amazing to me. But then again, it's going to burn through that. And
Yeah,
they're gonna
there's
say, so what is it? Just a theme park ride, or is it
Right.
more?
And I think that works. I mean, it's great for parties and inviting people over and stuff like that. But like, I haven't bought one for my house, and I don't necessarily know that I want to, because it's like, I don't necessarily want to play these games for hours and hours and hours on end. I mean, it's super effing cool, and I think there's going to be some amazing experiences, but it's just not necessarily the most relaxing thing. I mean, we talked about this last week, but it's just not super relaxing to me. And I'd rather just do it occasionally and have an amazing time than like just have it become a mundane thing.
All right, let's do this. 3 years. It's April 29th, 2019.
Okay.
Where are we at with VR?
Well, Trump is president.
Hopefully.
Where are we? Much smaller.
We're
I
all
think it's
living
still-
under the ocean.
Yeah, I was going to say it's rapture up in here. What do you, so you think it's smaller already? No.
I think it's smaller
Yes,
in 3 years.
definitely.
3 years?
100%.
3 years is a long time.
But you think there's going to be a Vive 2 that's smaller
yes.
in 3 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's quick. Okay.
At least. And actually, that's just the beginning.
I'd be pissed.
What I think is going to happen in 3 years is you're going to be in the entry level area of like consumer mixed reality. That stuff like HoloLens, things that are going to be blending virtual reality and real, where you're going to be able to turn the shutter and go into VR, open it up, and now it's
Gotcha.
blending into your world.
All right.
But I think it's going to be prototypey, sort of like the Gear VR when it first came out which is now a year and a half ago, or over a year ago. Was when the Gear VR first came out.
But
That I think we're going to be in there. Was the rest of it will be very, very streamlined and lower priced.
my question
Like
is though,
lightweight.
has it caught on? I guess is what I also want to address. Like it's 3 years from now.
Has
do
it
we
caught
still
on?
give a shit? Is it still here?
I
For
think
a
it's
certain
still
percentage.
here.
Yeah, for a certain percentage.
I don't think it's a broad success.
Yeah.
I think it's still here.
I think the PlayStation one's going to do all right though.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll like destroy, but I think it'll be okay.
I think you're going to end up having a much more common platform, stuff
Right.
that's more lightweight and will be priced like at $150.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be able to sort of almost mix and match and buy ones and plug them into wherever you need, hopefully.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then it'll be just something you use or you don't use. It's like, did you want to, and then more games will start folding again, like, adding a VR mode or not having a VR mode. I feel like it'll maybe not be so isolated in its own like platform.
Gotcha. All right. I don't want to
that's
spend
what
too
I
much
think.
time on VR because
It sounds kind of boring, but I mean,
No,
I think
it's-
that's like almost where it needs to be
yeah.
to get people to use it.
Let's talk about some stuff that happened this week with Nintendo.
Yeah.
The company that, for whatever reason, people continually try and understand. When
I mean-
I have been flying this flag for many, many years,
Sure.
saying they are in the business of not giving a what.
No, that's not it.
No.
That's not it.
No. Listen, I'm not done.
Okay. Sorry.
Not caring what we think. Like, in the sense that, like, they've kind of been marching to the beat of their own drum for a very long time.
That's true.
Very long time.
Like, they should, like, they don't want nothing to do with E3. They don't want to be at E3. They just don't.
I mean, they want to be there more than Activision does.
Okay.
So it's a matter of degrees. Like a bunch of companies dropped out. Nintendo could have dropped out if they wanted to.
They could have, but, like, I feel like they continually tell the world, like, trying to get out of this, but you just won't let us leave. They dropped their press conference many years ago.
Yes.
That's a huge deal. Their booth presence has kind of stayed the same for a couple years.
Are we talking about E3 or are we talking about Nintendo as a company? Because E3 is a very different beast, and I don't think it's exclusive to Nintendo that Nintendo wants to pull out.
Yeah.
Like, you have a lot of
course
companies,
not.
and it's just the nature of E3 as a show. So
right, but I think it's a combination of a lot of things with them, and we're talking. And the reason we're getting into this is because we're talking about the fact that they came out preemptively ahead of E3, which is now not even 2 months away.
Yeah.
And they basically said, that new console we have, we're not even going to talk about it, show it, do anything with it at E3.
Right.
That's coming out March of 2017.
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember Zelda, the game we promised you for 2016? Nah, it's not happening either. That's coming out next year as well on this NX system and Wii U.
Right.
And the little cherry on the top of the sundae, there's only one thing we're doing at E3, and we're just going to show you Zelda Wii U. And that's it. So... pack light.
I mean, it made perfect sense to me. None of that surprised me.
Not at all.
The
Not in the
games
least
part was a bit disappointing.
Well,
Was it? They have no games. If you're
that's
not,
the crazy
If
part.
you're not showing the NX, look at last year. For Nintendo, last year during E3 had like a handful of games,
Yep.
but it was such a.
it was like
it was
Splatoon and
It was
Star
slow.
Fox.
Yeah, it was
and
really
slow.
paltry, and
But
because they had
they
moved
keep
all their
slowing down.
developers over to this new console already, so they have no dev support.
Sure.
And this year's even more so. So like, if you're not showing the NX, there might have been a time when they planned on showing it, but if you're not showing it, you have no options. You can't show anything. So
Right. So, and I also think like this has kind of become a party that they're not necessarily wanting to be a part of.
right.
E3.
Yeah.
I
I mean, it's hard to say. I think
I-
I wouldn't be surprised if next year they came
Well,
back hard.
in a big way.
I think they like having the gamers who like Nintendo,
The loyalists,
wander
yeah.
around, or people who are covering Nintendo. I think what they increasingly don't care about is us.
Wouldn't
you
you
know,
press?
well, that's-
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
And, well, I mean, particularly, like, I think that they,
Which is fine.
between the direct, exactly, but that's the way it is. I think it's about the direct channels. I think they're reaching other stuff. I think they're taking this end around, and they're more about the competitions and the people who like Nintendo culture. And I just feel like it's more disconnected from, they're just going to do it when they do it.
Right, of course. And again, like all this information
They're
came
not
out
interested in
during an
timing.
investor meeting. This was not
Yeah.
like a consumer focused thing.
Right.
This was an investor meeting, which they like for whatever reason can't wrap their heads around the fact that like no, you have one of these things and the press are going to pick it up.
Yeah.
And they're going to cover this. And I feel like you talk about maybe sending mixed messages and whatnot. No, these are the messages that everyone extrapolates from what you tell people who are invested financially in the company, and they draw these conclusions.
Yeah.
And no one's like making these crazy accusations. I mean, these are facts. You guys got nothing for the rest of the year.
Yep.
That's, I just will say that's, and whether the developers tied him in the NX or whatever, that is the biggest problem to me. Because I feel like, from the perspective of people using this, like at home, my kid loves the Wii U.
Yeah.
He simply says he likes to play games on the Wii U. It's a system that's out there. It may not be as popular. Definitely is not as popular. But you got to do stuff with that. You got to have new games or have some team doing small little fun games. I feel like it all kind of went to sleep. Or the games lately for a while they were writing a couple of years where I feel like the games were all
but
surprisingly
there's none
great.
of that.
No, they've been getting weaker.
Well, it's because
and-
the sales weren't there, so they couldn't
Yeah.
invest in this console that never sold.
Right. It makes sense.
What about smaller scale games? What about these kind of more like retro indie efforts?
They're not
that
really
they can-
built. Nintendo as a company is not really built for that sort of game, and where they are, they're moving over to mobile. So
which I had been into for a while, but not if it's stuff like Miitomo.
Miitomo is, really,
I'm
can
really
say it.
concerned.
brutal. Bad.
It's bad.
It's
It's terrible. I played it for 10 minutes and then, I just couldn't even continue. It was.
Is
just
it
felt-
is it like a smash hit in Japan? I don't actually know.
I don't know.
It's not
All-
even like a game. It's
No,
some sort of
it's-
weird
it's
app, but it's not as
awful.
good as other apps that are social. Or the people who seem into it seem to have invested a tremendous amount of time to get a little bit out of it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I'm not saying I need to win the game, but I need to have a point. Like Animal Crossing has a point.
Right.
And this is just like, I get to learn more about my friends and buy a hat occasionally. Like, I
It
don't
makes
know.
me very worried about Animal Crossing mobile.
No, don't be
they're for
worried.
mobile.
It's just gonna be.
Not
this-
worried, but it's
gonna be a different version. It's not gonna be new. It's just gonna.
Well,
be like,
but there's a dumbed
concerned.
down.
I'm concerned
about it
about-
too. Pokemon as well. There's a dumbed down version. My fear is that they're going to make instead of making like the games that they've been making for mobile, they're going to make what they think are mobile games, which is like
Right.
a lot of free to play, like very abusive free to play stuff, and they haven't shown that they can prioritize like gameplay, which is what they're known for,
Exactly.
over the money making endeavors of like mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
think it's the prioritization that makes me, I guess, concerned. It's not worried, but it's concerned. It's the idea that it's balanced with this company. It's the idea of you should be able to do both, but clearly, now you have like they announced 2 more efforts on mobile, and where are the other games? And you should be able to do both, but maybe you can't.
Maybe you can't. Well, that's the issue. Is they were built as a company that could make these super high quality games, and they were very expensive to produce. And then they'd make a bunch of money in selling them because they'd sell for $40, $50, whatever. But on mobile, like you can't charge $40 or $50, so you need to make it up somewhere. You just need to figure out a way where like free to play mechanics don't totally prevent people from enjoying an experience. I would pay like $5 a chapter or whatever it is, or $5 for like 3 hours of gameplay of Fire Emblem on mobile. But they just need to figure out some sort of balance. So
I feel like they need to get to the next. I'm sure they will, to the next stage of the Super Mario Maker style mentality, and
But what do
keep evolving.
What does that mean?
Well, I feel like that's a game that really balanced not just the retro, but the flexibility, the user created content, and it seemed like to do a pretty good job of balancing stuff that Nintendo usually is not that good at.
not a huge financial boon for them though.
No,
It's
but
no, I know.
But
But
can
it's
you-
like, what are they doing?
it was a huge.
People cared about a
like,
Nintendo
yeah.
game for the first time in a very long time. So
Right,
like that's
and-
something to be noted.
And I think
How much did it? I mean, what? I don't know.
I don't know
how
those
well it
numbers
did,
were.
but-
I think it did okay, but
Yeah.
it definitely didn't like turn the ship around for Wii U.
I don't think there was a game that could have done that for Wii U. I think
that game feels like a mobile game, and or a handheld. And
Yeah,
that's what always seems
I agree.
strange to me is why that you
Well, like-
you want to be doing those levels on a train. Not
yeah, of course. Like
sitting
I
in
wish
front of your living
I wish
room.
there was like an iPad app
Yeah.
that allowed me to design levels. Like
that's got to be on
look,
its way.
Some
point.
it's easy to say, right?
Yeah.
But putting it into practice and the execution of that is probably a total disaster.
Yeah.
So
It's very
I don't
tricky.
know, but Nintendo, covering them for all these years, you just learn that like they are doing their thing,
Yeah.
and that investor meeting, they're saying like, oh, they're selling their majority stake in the Mariners,
Yeah.
the baseball team, where we're leveraging our IPs for theme parks.
Yeah. They're
So,
looking
like,
for other income bases. I mean, they've had success with Amiibo.
Yeah.
And they
we're
want
just gonna make more figures, is what they should
I mean,
do.
yeah, right. No, they
They're
just,
well known. They're well known.
Right.
Kid quantity. you
Yeah.
know.
And
Disney.
and the brands are very valuable. Like a deal with Disney and Mario and Nintendo would be very valuable.
Yeah.
And all that stuff can essentially float them until they release the NX. And if it's a big success, then they're fine. And if it's a total Wii U disaster, then maybe they can just reorg the company where it's just about using the brand and licensing out stuff. And then that's the end of it. So,
All right, we're going to shift gears. Let's talk about Uber. Last week, I want to say, there was a story where California was sort of like opening the door and going to, it was this sort of like, not lawsuit,
yeah.
but it was something where like drivers were fighting for the right to be able to ask for tips
Okay.
in Californian-driven Uber cars.
Sure.
Then I get an email the other day from the Uber NYC, and Uber NYC is like, no, don't worry about it. Nothing's changed. You don't need to tip. We don't. You're not expected to tip, and that's a thing that we're staying with.
Okay.
So I just want to I don't know. The second I saw that story about the California Uber drivers and like them being able to ask for tips, I'm just like, Uber is totally just. Not that this would be Uber's fault,
Sure.
but the fact that like all good things must come to an end, right? Where like the most attractive thing for me about Uber, even in its infancy, where it's like, oh, if you throw away the on-demand car thing, you throw the whole thing, it was like, I don't have to talk to this person,
Right.
I don't have to deal with them, I don't have to.
Well, you wouldn't let's face it. So Lyft has tipping. I used Lyft
But that's
for the first
in-app.
time.
That's
It's
in-app.
in-app, and that's what I'm saying. So if Uber were to add tipping, it would be in-app. So you still wouldn't have to talk to the person. Well, what do you mean? So like all good things must come to an end. They're going to add tipping?
Not that they would add tipping, but it's like the door for this really awkward and precarious relationship with the driver that you don't want to have would have opened up and like, stained the otherwise kind of like, you don't talk to me, I don't talk to you, I just go where I'm going relationship that Uber's kind of had.
But it's interesting because you can't, as a driver, you can't, and if Uber makes it public, like no tipping, if the driver asks for a tip, then your Uber rating is going to go down as a driver.
Right, of course.
So like drivers don't really have an incentive to go against Uber in this scenario, so they have no leverage.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a $100 million lawsuit that they're settling in Massachusetts and California, where Uber drivers will remain independent contractors instead of employees.
Right.
So
it minimizes the amount of hours they're allowed to work because
Right.
the second you go over that limit, you need to give them benefits and all sorts of stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was just very weird. I thought it was amazing that like they thought it was such a big deal that they had a email blast anyone who has an Uber account in New York.
Well, as you said, it matters. Like it matters to you that I don't have to tip these people.
It's a huge appeal element to Uber.
For me, it's like arguably the
and
most.
it's confusing if you start hearing about the tipping stories
right.
elsewhere.
And the messaging gets all out of whack.
Yeah.
And I know we're definitely in a bubble here in New York. I think Uber is amazing in other cities like LA.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
I've kind of started falling out of love with Uber in New York. And I'm curious to like get your guys' take on it.
Okay.
I'm kind of starting to think like there's too many cars.
Like they have too many Ubers driving
There's
around?
like 19,000 Ubers in New York. It's crazy.
Sure.
I just use cabs in New York.
What's
I
it?
never.
You never use an Uber.
Not in New York.
Okay, but I was in the middle of Crown Heights
I use it
the other
other
day.
places.
Like in the middle of Crown Heights, it was like 9:00 on a Tuesday.
It's different. I'm talking about the island.
Oh, you're saying
Manhattan.
But like really downtown Brooklyn, you're not counting that?
I guess so. I get it. I mean, but again, like
There are even parts of Manhattan, like if you're all the way on the west side, you might not be able to get a cab.
catching a cab is tough.
It's great where I live. I mean, like in Montclair, it's fantastic.
Sure, of course.
You go to San Francisco, it's great. LA, it's great. But it's true in Manhattan, I kind of just go for like whatever car's nearby, and I don't like the hassle. I don't even like the hassle. And I've seen people at the office do where they call an Uber and then they don't know where the Uber is.
Yeah,
They're waiting for the Uber.
Sure, I get it.
I'd rather wait for an available cab.
I just feel like sometimes the thought arises in my head that like maybe Manhattan's not built for Uber. Like maybe this city shouldn't have this.
I mean, you mean from a business standpoint or
Nope.
from like
From a total consumer standpoint.
But they do
and
well
again,
here.
like I'll disclose my dad's in the taxi business.
Right.
Like, let
right.
me put
But
that
they
out
do
there,
well
but-
here. Like, why? What makes you say that?
They should be here.
I just think like
it's a scaling demand, right? So like if
I get it, but I take them a lot in New
Sure.
York, and I've just started to see the needle move in like the opposite direction. Where I was like, I used to love it, and don't get me wrong, if it's midnight in Manhattan, I'm taking an Uber home,
right,
without a doubt.
I would keep Uber and taxis and get rid of all the weird lurking cars
You're talking
that are
about
around New York.
Oh, the lurker. Well,
that drive up,
there's
just go. Do you need a
lurkers.
ride?
Right.
What do you want? What do you want
$25
deal?
anywhere.
Get rid of those or ban. I don't
I
need
hate the
those.
lurkers, but you
They
can't
should
get
go
rid
back. You go back to the garage. Wait
Right.
for a dispatch. Don't.
Here's what
Do you like the weird hunting,
I hate
lurking,
them.
blocking lanes?
I say get rid of them, but I say don't get rid of like regular car service companies.
No,
Sure.
but regular car service companies don't go hanging around blocks.
No, they
that
don't
often.
creep.
they're also having a tough time.
Asking
What I would
for
say
rides.
is here's a big addition for me for cabs and like to encourage me to take cabs in New York City, a rating system for cabs. And I realize you can call 411 or
Yeah.
whatever and
that
give
would
the
be
guy
great. That
Did
would be
you-
a great thing.
Did you know you can digitally hail a cab?
Yes, I am aware,
On
but
their
only
own
because
app?
you told me.
On
No,
their
I
own
didn't-
app.
I didn't know
They
that.
have an app called Arrow,
Yeah,
and it's like the same thing.
yeah. But you can't rate the cab.
Why is it
No.
called Arrow?
It's ARRO.
So it's like
Okay.
a third-party app.
I mean, it's
In
a New-
conjunction with
right,
the,
it's a New York
the
City
Department of Taxi things, is what it is.
It's like me using the New Jersey Transit app to buy
which is
tickets.
Such a shit show.
Oh, it's awful.
That app is.
But yet, I will never use anything else
Of
because
course, like, even
I'm
if
not going to go up to a ticket
right.
booth and purchase
It's
a
the
physical
worst,
ticket.
or even a kiosk is
Yeah.
the worst.
I'm just saying, it's really frustrating to me to be able to have to take a cab and like there, we're out. Alex and I, my fiance, are out late, and we're in the middle of the city, and we're both tired, and a cab drives by with the light on, and we hail it.
And they're like-
and if it's like a miserable ride, I have no leverage beyond like not tipping them or tipping
Right.
them a small amount.
It gives some power to the consumer,
And
for sure.
and the cab drivers would care. Like that's an ongoing punishment if you're a bad driver.
That's something that has to happen.
Whereas right now, like just one tip being low,
It's just this faceless person.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
look, if it's awful, you can,
do it on the screen. How amazing would that be? Like
great.
right in front of you, just like how many stars would you rate this drive?
and you can, and that's not impossible.
The only thing is they can't rate you back. That's the one reciprocal thing in Uber is there's this.
Why
idea
not?
that-
You can
Because you have no account.
No, but like you could make it so that it becomes that.
You could make it.
yeah,
Yeah, they kind of, that's an interesting thing about
That's true,
Ubers
yeah.
is
Like-
that if you trash them, because that's the thing is people might just get upset and trash the drivers all the time. But there's the negative in Uber that if you start doing that, obviously they're going to don't do that. Be a good person.
Well, you figure out a mean though.
Yeah. I always want to know, when you rate an Uber driver, do they see your rating you gave them?
No,
So,
they
like-
don't see which rating you gave them, but obviously they see their rating.
Right, because I'm always just like, shit, did this guy just see I gave him 2 stars?
No.
Right.
I don't think immediately. I think they might only see the average. If they only do one drive a day
Yeah.
and their rating
They
goes
can
down after
single it
that.
out. Apparently, there's a way for you now to see your rating.
Really?
You
I
can.
didn't- I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
That I do know.
In the
I
app?
used to have them tell me, like,
you have to go into the settings under profile, and it's under one of the
Yeah.
tabs.
Oh,
You can,
interesting.
do you remember we were in LA and was I with you when the guy, like, we Ubered it and it was like this really fancy Mercedes?
Okay.
You remember?
Sort of, yeah.
And the guy volunteered. He's like, I don't do this a lot, but I gotta let you know, you got a 5. You got a 5. Oh no, 4.9. He's like, I don't pick up anyone lower than 4.7.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
A little
I was
bit.
just like, I was having that happen for a while where
Yeah.
they were just coming out, and then I found it in the app, and I think I'm at 4.8 now.
Oh,
I know someone didn't like.
got a little heady.
I think someone didn't like my non-tip.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I felt bad. I was like, shit, I got to tip these people now?
Yeah,
I
no,
don't want to
it's-
do that.
no, I
But
think
you're
you're
totally right. There's got to be a system in place where, like, the cab drivers can have that Uber, because there's no incentive for them,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And maybe if you're like the dispatcher, you go, hey, to my fleet of 12 cabs,
Yeah.
whoever has the highest rating at the end of the week, you get an extra $20. All right.
For first highest rating, you get a Cadillac. Second highest rating, steak knives. Third highest rating, you're fired.
And we fire the guy with the lowest rating. So you don't want to be that guy talking to you, Russ. I know how you drive. You know,
I was trying to find. I couldn't even find where this is in the settings
it's
to
buried.
find out your rating.
It is buried.
I'll
It is
take
pretty.
that.
It's pretty buried.
That's interesting.
So there's one story that we'll talk about with you,
Okay.
and we'll finish things off with that. But I want to pivot back into Scott while we're here, because you aren't here a lot. And you do specialize on a lot of specific things on CNET, including the Apple Watch.
I feel like a distant relative. that's
You are.
about
You're
to,
sort
go
of
on-
like, but you're busy because you travel a lot and you're away a lot. and,
Yeah,
like,
very busy.
You don't get to see the family that much, and when you're here, it's like, man, we got to pick his brain because he's not going to be back for a while.
Exactly.
I'm cousin Scott.
Your cousin Scott with the weird job.
Yeah. Hope to see you again soon.
What's he do, Mom? Oh, he reviews
Computers.
all those
Come out and
games.
visit anytime. Crash on our sofa. You should come out.
Yeah, can I play with all your gadgets, Uncle
I
Scott?
keep banging my ring against the metal like it's like a punctuation.
Yeah, I think it's trying to tell
I'm
you.
taking off
something.
my wedding ring
Okay.
Uh-oh.
It's happening.
It's off.
for the podcast.
Good. Now that the ring's off, you can talk about the Apple Watch.
There we go.
So it's over a year in, right?
Yeah, it's over a year and a month.
I like that we're doing these sort of like yearly audits on these products. What do you think?
Yep.
What-
Well, I'm in the process of re-reviewing the Apple Watch.
So why are
I'm a
you
little
doing
late
that?
to it.
Why are you doing that?
Because it's a year old, and that's what people do now is they look back on products, and because they haven't come out with a new one. So
Right.
if you're shopping for this, it's changed a little bit, and the landscape has changed a little bit, and so the opinion's a little different.
I see a lot of people wearing Apple Watches. I just don't see them using them.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, what are you going to do when you use a watch? You're not going to be like sitting there.
Right.
It's hard to tell. And
Right.
I always find it's hard to tell because you're not going to sit there fiddling with it. It's kind of designed to not fiddle with it too much.
I also think,
But I agree. I just got my teeth cleaned this morning.
Yeah.
God, I sound old now. And
I got my teeth cleaned.
I got my teeth cleaned, and she was wearing an Apple Watch. And I feel like inevitably, like I see it more and more, although I also hear about a lot of people have stopped wearing them.
Yeah.
I have 2 friends with them. I was out to lunch with one of them the other day, and he told me the worst thing about the watch is that he had yet to find the delicate balance of like using it in public and not looking like a total reject.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, that's a weird problem. But then I thought about it and we talked about it. I'm like, oh, wait, I kind of get it because it is this awkward interaction thing.
Yeah, and a little bit self-important, too.
Yeah.
Because
like,
if you think that somebody is annoying on a phone, what you're saying on the watch is, I am choosing to not be connected to my phone by staring at a watch in front of you.
I could just as easily pull my phone out and do the same thing, but I'm going to do it on my watch instead, even though it's more clumsy and annoying.
It's like a halfway statement. It's like I'm not connected, but I am connected because you can do nothing. Too.
Yeah,
right.
That's to me that just.
I'm not down with that. Yeah. How long is it going to be? Like, are they going to refresh the hardware on this thing? Are they basically saying, "Uh-oh, we screwed up"?
No, they didn't. I mean, they're going to keep on with this, and at least for a while. And the refresh, I would guess, would be opposite the iPhone 7.
Sure.
And may help if the iPhone 7 doesn't have as many features as rumors say that would be as amazing for people. Then having that alongside it would spice up the event a little bit.
What does that mean?
I think.
Let's go deeper.
Well, because the iPhone it's always one of the top search commodities on the site, and people want to know about it, want to read about it. But sales dipped on the iPhone this year, and it's their biggest part of their industry. And at some point, people are just going to stop upgrading all the time. And we talk about this all the time with smartphone boredom. They are amazing devices, and they continue to evolve. But
I don't need one every year.
That's the thing. Right. And they approach, and I've seen so many articles debating this from everybody now in the industry. And it's both. They're amazing, but they're also commodities now.
Yeah.
So it's commodity status. Not everybody needs every great feature all the time. Most people have got one. And so, like you said, a lot of people settle with not needing one right now.
Right.
And there are very few tricks to pull out of the hat that are amazing at this point.
Right.
I think there are not that many. There are still a few, but kind of few and far between.
And a few people I've talked to that have switched from Apple to Android enjoy the notion, enjoy the idea, or at least the idea that I can just get another new phone whenever I want. Like, I don't have to do this year-long waiting game.
Yes.
Where I have to wait a year to see if I want this phone.
Right.
And then kind of go from there.
And you have a lot of different ideas for what you'd want. You want a removable battery? Do you want this?
Right.
Do you want that?
Right.
Different sizes.
Like, I'm a guy where expandable storage is the only thing I give a shit about.
Sure. Right.
Well,
And
guess what? There's going to be like 11 phones this year that can do that for you.
And if you change your mind, maybe you decide now that doesn't matter. This matters. There's a phone out there. Apple, you've got to wait for their design decisions to match with yours or not, and whether you're going to bend or not. And so that's always the battle. But that's the iPhone. But Apple Watch, I would say there should be one in September. People are not expecting a lot of great changes, but definitely battery life could be one of them.
So if you had a guess, I mean, if there's anyone who's can make an educated guess, it's you. What are you thinking for a battery life on the Watch 2?
I don't think it can get all that much better.
Yeah.
Because
more than a day,
more than a day or a day and a half.
Yeah.
But the battery life limits on these things continue to be a challenge. I mean, that's like it's kind of hit a wall. Things like the Pebble that last a week.
Yeah.
That's because they're using different display technology and they're not doing the same thing. But I would think that they're going to be able to try to get to a couple of days. Also to work in the feature of, I mean, if you're talking about fitness devices, they've never done sleep tracking. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not like a huge believer in the sleep tracking technology on a lot of these things because they don't really work that well. But they do log sleep, and I feel like that's kind of useful. And they're part of the ecosystem for Fitbit, for Withing, all these things.
My phone logs sleep, though.
Does it?
Yeah.
How does it
do that?
I have an app that uses sound.
Oh, you're a dummy.
And it works. I'm telling you, it works.
How does it use sound?
So, I mean, when you
What's
are...
the app?
It's called...
Morpheus?
No. I'll tell you.
So it uses the sound from your sleeping?
From me, like, moving around or not.
Get out of here.
Sleep Cycle. It's called Sleep Cycle.
So it has to, what about it doesn't pick up Alex?
So they're actually linked, which is pretty cool. So because we're connected to the same Wi-Fi router, it'll recognize which sounds she's making versus my sounds.
So you both have this running at the
And
same
what
time?
about the dog?
There's no dog.
But if there was.
Maybe it would get more complicated.
This is going to sound a weird sentence. I sleep with a dog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, then you can't do this. You're
Can't
out.
do this.
Yeah, it might not work with
You're
Marty.
screwed.
Yeah,
But it works. It works well for me, and it also wakes me up when I'm lightest in sleep. So when I just start moving around, that's when the alarm starts going off.
I like that.
It's really cool,
That's
and
a
it's
very
free. I really
smart-
like
That's
the
pretty
app.
neat.
That's a smart
It would
feature.
interpret you, Jeff, as a very restless furry animal.
Yeah. It'd be like,
You're getting so little sleep.
You're getting so little sleep, and your heart is beating way quicker than
Yeah.
it should.
Yeah. I mean, it's not tracking my heart rate.
Are
so
you a
whatever.
dog?
You'd see you as a fusion creature.
Yeah.
It would see all of it
It'll
as
show
one.
John
But the-
Candy from Spaceballs as my profile picture.
It's just the epitome of like all of the issues with the Apple Watch is that your phone just does all of that stuff, but better.
Yeah.
Just does.
Let-
And
that's just, I don't know, man. I wanted to want an Apple Watch. I said it.
That's the thing. And the number one thing when people ask me now, and it's kind of how I'm going to this now, just the other day, people still ask, should I get an Apple Watch?
Yeah.
It's like a very commonly asked question if they know that I write about tech or I deal with this stuff, because people have not gotten on the path they don't know if they want it. And generally the answer is no, you don't need it. Of course you don't need
Right.
an Apple Watch. But I do wear one. I find that in a messy landscape it's helpful. And it's kind of like a tether to keep you connected. But that's the thing is, do I want to be connected? I'm trying to not be as connected.
Right.
And also it does a very mixed to not good job of staying connected to things in your life, obviously, when you're not near a phone.
right.
Which, so then if you're always having the phone, why have that? But we're not in a world where, if there's some fantasy, I guess, of this being a super connected device to everything around you,
Well, it
the
just
Internet
needs
of
to-
Things or
just
whatever.
needs to
Work
be
without
independent.
being
Yeah.
next to a phone. Like, can you even work out? Like, is the
Oh,
step?
yeah.
You can work out without the phone and it
Yes.
works fine.
Well,
Yeah.
and it
So it has actually a fair amount of standalone things. Music playing, if you want to store stuff on it, you can do the fitness tracking, even Apple Pay.
Sure.
And if you go near Wi-Fi hotspots that it recognizes, it gets messages, it gets these things.
Okay.
But
That's cool.
not all of them.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, but they're going to switch to that in June. They're going to make all the apps run natively, and I think it's going to start running more on Wi-Fi. So it's cool, but it's not, and it doesn't really feel like it's really keeping an eye on everything around
Sure.
you.
Yeah.
It feels still like it's being a bit
Anchored.
of a tether
Yeah.
Yeah.
or a bit of a reminder device.
Right.
And I want it to be able to stay on all the time if I want it to. And I
Right.
don't have to worry about charging
But
it.
you wear yours.
Yeah.
Now, do you do it just for the job, or do you do it because you genuinely like it?
No, I do it because I like it, but I don't do it. I don't love it. And that's the thing is I like it because I
Right.
think it's the best for messaging.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's the best among smartwatches for getting quick messages and information and not always being able to respond to it easily. None of them do it that well, but this one does it pretty well.
It's interesting that I find a lot of people giving off the sentiment that they almost kind of like make this compromise. They're like,
Yeah.
I just have to like force myself to like
Yeah.
it a little bit, or force myself to wear it, and I just kind of tell myself I like it.
Well,
I've heard that.
And I use it. I always use some sort of a activity tracker, fitness tracker. I think its fitness tracker is pretty good. What it's lacking is the rest of the fitness tracking ecosystem that other stuff has, like
Yeah.
social, competitive stuff, being able to do the tracking nutrition, built in things that you would assume you have the option. You have to do third party apps, but
Right.
the basic daily goal keeping on it is good
Sure.
and stands in for that. So I use it for that. I use it for dumb things like the weather.
That's not dumb.
But it's useful for that.
Weather's important. I only get weather from my phone.
Yeah.
And if I drive, I use it. Of course, you could obviously use, and some people have cars already do this stuff. You can get turn-by-turn directions through Bluetooth, but I actually use it in addition to ping me with little turn reminders,
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's
things
cool.
like that, which is good. And especially if my family's asleep or not around, I want to just kind of at night get a little heads up on it.
Does it vibrate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it vibrates. It makes
It
little
does
sounds.
the touch, whatever it's called.
Yeah, the taptic. So it's like a faint vibration, not as
Yeah.
strong as Pebble. It makes little sounds, and it turns on pretty easily awareness. But I don't like that you have to turn it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't often have any fail moments for that. That's why I use it. But I
Right.
feel like those extra hooked in features, just a little bit more than the Pebble,
Yeah.
are why I do it. But I do it because I work. It's hard to draw the line. I do it
I
because
hear
I'm
ya.
into wearables, and I've always been a watchy, techie geek.
Totally.
So not everybody is going to be like that.
Yeah.
I get it, and I'm that person as well.
Yeah.
I've recently fallen into like a renaissance of like analog watches that I'm like back into.
I see
and
them.
really-
You have cool ones every day.
I just-
feel like on your wrist.
Yeah, I just really like unique kind of watches. I like, But here's the thing, right? Like I used to be the Casio guy.
Yeah.
I used to be I used to have phones that would like tell the temperature. Watches that would give me the temperature. I have like readings of I never had the calculator watch, but I had the watch that changes the TV channel.
Yeah.
I had the memo bank watches. I had one watch. Listen to this. I gotta find this. I had a watch from Casio that vibrated when my phone rang.
Wow.
How long ago?
It was dude. It's definitely 10 years ago.
That's amazing.
We gotta find it. It
That's
would also
crazy.
go off.
Did it use Bluetooth?
No, it used. No, this is gonna freak you out.
Like an acoustical?
No, it used some sort of like wave sensor, and it would go off when I walked in front of microwaves.
Oh, that's disconcerting.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I never really. Oh, I'm such a dick.
That's cool.
I need to tell that story more.
Yeah, that's
but yeah,
pretty
and I
cool.
gotta find what that watch was.
The man who walked in front of microwaves.
and like I would just know. And what was crazy too is that the meter on it, whatever the hell it was so sensitive that it would go off if I had pulled up. I was driving, so it had to be at least 15 years ago. I would drive in a car, stop at a light. The person next to me was on their phone. It would vibrate.
Weird.
That's weird.
It
That's
was super sensitive.
Casio did so many, and it keeps
Yeah.
making me wonder why Casio is not involved in making smartwatches
Crazy.
now. I've spoken with Casio before. We've talked about this. I think that they're kind of like a company like Nintendo that just
They're like,
kind of
hey,
They do their thing.
they do
what
their
we're doing.
thing.
We know what we're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
proud legacy. But anyway,
Yeah.
reminds me, the number one thing that bugs me about the Apple Watch, it needs more watch faces.
Yeah.
If you're like a watch nut or a design fetishist, you should be able to download or get whatever watch faces you want.
And
Right.
design anything.
And Apple still has no watch face store,
God, that
Yeah, that's
pissed
which is
me
crazy.
off.
insane.
Yeah.
And they have a built-in bunch of 10 or 11 that you
Yeah.
can customize, but it's not enough. I
Right.
mean, they get really old. They're very repetitive. And yeah, you know what? If I had a really cool, I just want awesome watch faces that show more.
Yeah.
I don't want to load the apps. The apps are awful.
Right.
Telling you why they don't do it.
Yeah.
They don't do it.
Why?
I know why.
Well,
They
they're
don't-
trying to monetize it. They want to have a store to make
I get
money.
it, but it'll be a cert thing, right? It'll have you submit a watch face.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to take 7 to 10 business days for us to vet it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's going to be curated.
Because the second someone flicks their wrist and shows the most hideous Apple Watch face,
oh, it will not be open.
Right.
they'll be like, oh,
Right.
no.
That's the
No,
concern.
it will
Which
not
is
be
like
open.
definitely a problem with Pebble, right?
It is.
But
I mean,
but you can't. That's
It's wonderful and terrible.
Yeah.
You can't reject. They couldn't reject things as like this is ugly.
No, but they could reject like an overcrowded thing. I mean,
I think
Yeah.
it'll be much more heavily curated.
It
They're
will.
going to develop partnerships.
Yeah.
I kept saying it was going to happen and it didn't. Now I think it's going to happen in September. They'll announce the Apple Watch 2 with you have your Disney line, you
Sure.
have your Philippe Stark watch faces, or
Sure.
they could partner with all sorts of designers. I just think it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because at this point, if it's supposed to be a cool watch, it's not cool enough even as a watch.
If
it's
they-
missing those extra faces. From
if they came out with a hybrid analog sort of hybrid thing, which like I think if there's one company that can pull it off, it could be them. Where like they teamed up with like Tag or
Yeah.
whoever, Skydrum, whatever it is. Like make a watch that has both. Where like maybe I could see through that screen on top and see a second hand below it or something.
It's definitely
like that.
possible.
You know, like do that.
I almost feel like that might happen. It's totally not impossible, and maybe like down the road.
Yeah.
Like once the Apple Watch becomes such a more organized commodity, and they
Right.
start branching out to other design.
Before we go into the last thing here, give me 2 major, maybe like out of the box predictions about Apple Watch 2. Can I ask you that?
Oh yeah.
Like aside from battery life. I know I'm putting you on the spot here a little
No,
bit.
I've been thinking about this.
Yeah.
One would be maybe FaceTime.
Oh.
I don't even know if they go there,
Camera
but
in
I
there?
think people
That'd
would
be
want
kind of cool.
to be able to just have a quick little call with someone.
Right.
It's Samsung tapped into that. It's a fantasy. It's
Yeah.
the idea
Well,
of
like
saying hi
I
to your
think about it
kids
like this:
on your
like
wrist.
they'll have you put your wrist up to your face, and you can you just kind of like show people stuff. That might
it's
be cool.
I mean, you can do it with your phone, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing is why do you need it?
Everything
The
you
second
can
one,
do.
which might be more interesting to you, but so far this stuff has been a big mess, is cellular. I mean, when you
Yeah.
mentioned standalone, question is how do you do that and have the battery life not be bad? The Gear S2 3G I wore for a while, which has cellular.
Yeah.
It does a not bad job.
Is
but
it like
it's-
massive?
It's
Yeah.
massive. It's massive. The battery life is maybe a day if you're
Yeah.
lucky.
So here's what you
It's
do
like
for
9
the battery.
hours.
You install. Look, that MacBook.
And you
they
worry
have-
about having a cellular antenna. Talk about worrying about stuff on
Yeah.
your wrist. Not that I'm like that
Seriously.
person, but I mean, you have this giant chunk of like cell phone
Yeah.
sitting in your wrist all day. It didn't get hot or anything.
Hope that's
Well,
okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, you have one next to your
You do,
lowers.
but it's not-
Yeah, I have one. I have things everywhere, so it's like basically
Well, like look at what
I've gotten fine with that.
when they show the cross section of that stupid MacBook they have with like the whole thing's a battery
Yeah.
with a screen.
It's like a little ziggurat of like tiered
Yeah.
batteries.
So why
on
don't
it.
you do that in like the band of the watch? Like,
Oh,
just do that.
That's
Thank,
cool.
thank you for reminding me, but not to say yes, you're totally right, and also I agree, and I will say that yes, smart bands would be a fantastic.
Very
area.
cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Pebble has promised that they would do that for a while.
Yeah.
Those Pebble watches have the connector. I think they had a real problem getting any traction.
Yeah.
Plus, their company is not.
They're not doing well.
I mean, when's the last time you heard about Pebble as a top smartwatch in any
Yeah.
of the market?
I guess, but like if someone said to you, "Do I get a Pebble or an Apple Watch?" I feel like you would recommend a Pebble. No.
I would. I think it's really torn right now. I like Pebble for if you get it cheap. If you get it for $150,
Yeah.
get a Pebble.
What about? Okay, so I mean,
But I don't. I
feel
think
like Pebble needs a bigger watch. Also,
I think it's slowing down.
Yeah.
I haven't seen as many interesting software app things. I think it does its basic notification things just fine.
Yeah.
I like Pebble Time Steel. I like the look of it, but then you're paying up to $250.
what do they got to do? What does that company have to do? They
I
gotta
want,
come out
I
with
want to see
something
some
new.
of this. I want to see that smart band stuff work. But the question is, how do you make that appealing? But
I think the face is too small. The screen's too small on those watches.
on Pebble, I think the problem is that it's really hard to interact with.
Yeah,
Because with those buttons, suddenly
Right.
you're caught. I don't always like touching on a screen.
sure.
But with the buttons and the app, sometimes they don't all work the way you'd want them
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
And suddenly you want to do something, and you say, "I'm not really sure how I can do it."
Yeah.
I think they also have to make their fitness stuff, which is actually getting better. Bake all these watches need to bake all their features right at the top,
Gotcha.
so that you don't have to dig down
Yep.
into the things. Make it more about what you can see as a dashboard right away in as few steps as possible. They all say that, but I feel like it actually doesn't become that on
Yep.
these
Okay.
watches.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's the hot take 1 year later
Well done.
from Mr. Scott Stein about smartwatch landscapes, including Pebble and Apple Watch. We've pivoted into the social commentary section of our fine
Well, let's
program.
not preface it because it's important that I make it clear.
Whoa. Whoa.
Well, you were starting to
Something's
preface it, and
gonna
you don't
happen.
even know what I want to talk about.
I don't, but that's part of the fun. Is
It
like
is.
setting you up for certain disasters.
Sure. Okay. So I'm
What
gonna
do you
talk-
want to talk about, Russ?
So here's the deal. I started a new job this week. I can't talk about it yet. I'll talk about it next week. It's fine.
This guy. What?
It's fine. I just haven't
You've
made
always
it
been a
public
man of
yet,
mystery.
and this is not the show to make it public. So it's
Thanks.
fine. No offense.
It's your own show.
But I started a new job, and I was there all week, and we were having meetings on on a certain floor of the building that I hadn't been on before, and there was a break in the meeting, and I walk outside, and there's a bunch of people working at desks, whatever, and I was looking for the bathroom, and I asked someone where the bathroom is, and they're like, "Oh, it's right over there," and I turn around. And I start walking to this door, and then as I get closer, I see the sign, and it says it's an all gender bathroom.
okay.
I'm like, okay, whatever. I watched Ally McBeal. Whatever, it's fine. That's the connection I made to it.
That is like using like, hello, fellow young people.
So as I'm walking
That's
in,
amazing.
it occurs to me, because like, I don't want to get graphic, but I needed to make a 2. And it occurs to me.
Wait, I wish everyone saw the little snarl that Russ just did. But anyway, you had to make a poopy.
I had to
get
make
it.
a poopy.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that I had never in my life used the bathroom, maybe when I was a
to make
baby,
a poopy.
with a member of the opposite sex. Never in my life.
Wait, so this was like multiple stalls?
Multiple stalls.
Okay.
3 different stalls.
All right.
And as I'm walking in, and it's empty when I walk in, but it's 3 stalls.
But other people join you as you go.
Wait a minute. So like, or there's no urinals
There are no urinals.
because so now is that a thing? Like,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, because like I would feel uncomfortable with a woman walking into me peeing in a urinal.
Okay, that's why there's no urinals. I'm sure she would feel uncomfortable too.
Is this the death of the urinal?
Is this the death
I,
of the urinal?
I gotta say, urinals
So,
are very efficient.
I
though.
love urinals. I
Put them
love
off
being
in the
them.
side where no one can see.
no,
them.
no, no.
The
Stop.
best urinals
Stop.
are the ones that go all the way
Like
down
a
to the
corridor.
floor.
There's plenty. Here's
But
the
then it
situation.
becomes sexist because it's only for one sex.
Let me say
So
the
it's not a
reason I
useful
mentioned this.
thing.
It's obviously in the news right now because
Right.
people are freaking
Right,
out.
because there's assholes in the world who don't understand how to live life.
And let me reiterate the fact that like I think the idea of like trans people going into bathrooms and harassing members of whatever is an imaginary issue that people are like maniacs in Alabama are making up. So
sorry, Alabama. Go on.
Zing. So I think it's a joke. So this is not about that or whether I think it's a good idea.
Of course not.
It's just about this realization that I had as I was walking in, where it was like, and I like sat down and I was like, this has to be the quickest poop of my entire life.
That's all it is. That's all this is. It's a design to get everyone to poo quicker.
Right. It's like a productivity thing.
Yeah. It's an efficiency.
You found that you found it sped you up.
It sped me up. Well, I found that I will never ever poop on that floor again.
You didn't even take your phone out.
Oh no. It was like a lightning poop.
I feel like it would freeze all processes and that my body would go into some sort of digestive arrest.
I think so.
Yeah. I'd be constipated for days.
It's an amazing thing.
Like, have you?
No.
But like,
I haven't.
I've never done this.
Never,
but
right?
Like, look.
And my wife does not like me pooping next to her.
What do you mean next to her?
Yeah, mine doesn't either. She goes, go to the bathroom if you're going to do that.
You know, like, I mean, if you ever had a situation where, and we don't, because we don't have his and her side-by-side toilets in the house.
Which should be a thing.
Right.
I think that's awesome. And
I think that is a thing for like the uber rich probably have that.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
We're like, it's like two heads in the shower.
To support what you were saying, that, I've just never had a moment in my life where I've done a number two next to someone of the opposite sex, because usually they don't like that.
Right.
That's not why. There's just no venue.
I don't like it.
Stacey and I have a different relationship.
And there's no opportunity. It's like someone's brushing their teeth and I'm...
What
so
does
you're
that
right.
mean?
It
means like we kind of just don't care. And we kind of like leave doors open and talk.
Okay. Fine.
Joanna doesn't like that.
Yeah, no.
We don't. I don't.
I
do
would
that
not
either.
mind.
I think it's
I would
we
not
talk,
mind.
but the door's closed.
Look, here's
I want
the
a little
one rule we
mystery.
have. Here's the one rule we have. Just don't touch each other. Like when that's happening, right? Like you can talk all you want. But like,
is she brushing teeth and you're pooping?
Or
in the same place and talking.
That is
couple feet away
and talking.
But like the second like you accidentally rub elbows, you're like, I don't know.
Do you look at each other as you're talking, or pretend it's a phone call?
I guess you got we look.
Do you know what I mean?
So
Look
this
at
is
each
someone
other.
that you've been married to for many years.
Yeah.
You were dating
Live
for many
with her
years.
forever,
So imagine that scenario. Not maybe exact the same scenario.
Because it's not brushing teeth.
Yeah, but still, like in the same room with a complete and utter stranger.
Now, how much space is at the bottom of the stall?
It's not a full door. It's
not a full
normal
door?
stall.
I'm okay with it.
Really, it wouldn't phase you in the least.
I don't think so. Because you know what? We all do it.
That's true. And I agree. It's a natural thing, but it's this weird, like, unfamiliarity. This is the kind of thing I always think about this. When I grow up, what's going to make me sound like an old grandpa racist to my kids?
It's the pooping with
only
pooping.
Yeah, it's like
and
segregated.
You're only 32
pooping.
when this is happening, so I don't even know what to
right,
tell
exactly.
you.
I think in 20 years there won't be doors or walls.
No, that's
and you'll be like, why are you guys not okay with just open poop?
I don't think that's gonna. I think that doesn't make.
I
sense.
would
because it's not a privacy thing.
Yeah, I think
maybe people will be wearing VR.
Oh, all right.
That's horrifying.
How'd they get to the toilet?
Close out your VR glasses. What are you doing with your open mixed reality glasses while pooping? What's wrong with you? Shut your lenses.
Yeah, it'll be
shut
interesting.
your lenses.
The reason I think I would ordinarily say, oh, they're all going to be mixed gender toilets in the future, but it's an expense issue, which is to say, male toilet bathrooms are way cheaper than female toilets.
Well, it's like and plus I only need to build one now. Just make it a little bigger. I only need one bathroom now. I just have to add like a few more stalls.
What are you saying?
I'm saying so I don't have to build a woman's and men's bathroom now.
Okay, first of all, space is not infinite. You can't just like turn one bathroom into a second bathroom with no problem.
No, but I'm just saying like
you save space.
Yeah, you save space ultimately.
A slightly larger one bathroom versus
I get what
two
you mean.
larger. You don't have to duplicate the sinks in the same way.
Right. It's more efficient.
But soap dispensers, those got to stay separate, okay? That's what's got to stay.
No miscegenation of the soap dispensers
and the automatic hand dryer.
I'm fine with shared bathrooms, but what I'd be worried about is the sort of like in a Larry David-y sort of thing. Like I'd be worried about getting out of the restroom and then someone else like being upset with me for some reason
because you destroyed it.
Well, then I just go
like for some reason. How many options?
I had to use the bathroom.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody hates me now. Like and I feel like that I'd be worried about that.
So right now, only 50% of the people hate you. You're worried about 100% of the people.
Yes, just by using the bathroom. Look, and I want to not bother anyone, but I will. I'm not saying that I have terrible poops,
I
but
will
I'm saying
inevitably upset people.
yeah. That's what I worry about. Just like would it?
I mean, I feel like it's already awkward in a men's only bathroom sometimes.
It's totally awkward.
Sure.
You know,
Every
so,
time.
Like, why not let everyone experience the horror?
Anytime I recognize somebody's ankles in the bathroom next to me, and I realize I'm pooping next to somebody that I know,
Yeah,
and I'm
And
not
he's
going
having
to
a
try to
rough go
delude
at it.
myself because
Yeah.
I know I just
that's Bob. That's definitely Bob. He's the only one who has those brown and pink Adidas.
Yep.
those are
Typical
Dan's.
Bob.
Those are Dan's shoes.
That's it. I know it's him. I say when you know it's someone, say hi.
I've talked. I've definitely not during poop, but during everything
There's
else.
a certain,
Yeah, you could do the one sentence back and forth is fine.
Yeah.
Everything else,
Standing
except for-
conversations, screw you.
and
Like,
don't you
do
dare
that.
make eye contact.
Oh, the
Totally.
standing you don't.
So like
standing-
standing in the bathroom and talking.
Oh, not. I mean,
What is this,
at
the
the
high
urinal. I mean the
Yeah.
urinal.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely not at the urinal.
I don't
talking.
mind that. If
done
it's someone
that.
I know, I'll be
No.
like, hey, what's up, man?
But
Yeah, that's
it just
fine.
reminds me of like terrible memories of going to Jets games as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, at the trough.
Yeah,
So
everybody's talking about
that's a
horrifying.
problem.
Ken O'Brien.
And it's just like a big elephant drink. It's just like, no thanks. All right, I think we could close it off there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds about right.
I think we
Elephant
could-
drinks.
I think we could zip it up right there. Right? Zip it up and get out of there.
There we go.
Big thanks to Scott Stein for coming on the show today. Where can people follow you, Mr. Stein?
At Jet Scott on the dying app Twitter.
Do you think Twitter's done?
I don't know. I like Twitter a lot.
Yeah.
I want it to be bought by Disney or something.
That would be crazy. It
I
wouldn't be
do
an at
not
symbol.
want that at all.
It wouldn't be an at. It would just be Epcot symbol. and
Awesome.
then-
Exactly.
And then your
Down with that.
username.
Arby's Twitter. They don't have the money for it. Or maybe they do now. But yeah, follow me at Jet Scott.
All right, and be sure to catch the Apple Watch refresh review coming. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I'm
all that
working
good
on that
stuff.
right now. Trying to find a way to write it without making people bored or angry.
Good luck. Good luck with that.
It's hard with that product.
I'm sure, Mr. Frushtick.
Yep.
Everyone can follow you on
At Russ
Twitter,
Frushtick.
At Russ Frushtick. Listen to the West Wing history class.
Almost done with the first season.
Congrats. Is there a test at the
No,
end?
we did have a very cool guest recently. She was on the advanced team of the Howard Dean campaign,
Oh.
and she had a conversation with him 30 seconds before he gave his infamous like screaming.
Scream. Oh.
And she says she basically was saying all those words to him, like, "Hey, just focus. You're gonna go to, South Dakota and Massachusetts, and you're gonna go to DC, and then you're gonna take the White House," like very calmly.
Yeah.
And he walked out on stage and screamed it at the top
like
of
a
his lungs.
madman. And essentially
Wow.
lost any kind of political relevancy.
So if you're looking for interesting, West Wing history class.
That's really cool. And then follow me on Twitter at Jeff Bacalar. We're back next week with a brand new show. 866-404-CNET is the phone number. Sorry we did not get the voicemails this week, but we'll jump back in next week. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you soon.